There is no investigation. This boy has...
There is not, really? It is to me.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I had to put her on the side and worry about
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
There is no investigation. This boy
There
has...
is not, really? It is to me. Right. Idiot.
I've done my best. It's hard, you know, it's real tough.
But I had to put her on the side and worry about the boys.
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
Live from the NBD Production Studios, you're in the lab with your host, Joshua Diaz.
There is no investigation. This boy
There
has...
is not, really? It is to me. But I had to put her on the side and worry about the boys. But I had to.
There is no investigation.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I had to put her. But I had to put her on the side and worry about the boys.
Welcome to the lab. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz. How is everybody today? Good to be here. It is 5:34 here on the West Coast, May 18th, 2022. Good to be here. Good to see you. How is everybody today? Having a wonderful evening. I'm hoping getting those barbecues dusted off and out of the shed and getting the spider webs out of there. So grilling season is coming up. It is abnormally warm all over the place. So early. I mean, it is early to be this warm anywhere. It feels like. But, you know, if you like that kind of thing, good for you. If you don't, get an air conditioner because it is going to be a hot summer. Living in California, every year we deal with fires. And I know that places kind of all over the country do. And overseas, it just becomes an absolute nightmare. See 104 in Texas today. Like that's we're talking May, folks. We're talking May. All right. And you know I'm a Southerner and we call them grills. Well, get out your grill, get out your barbecue, get out your George Foreman, get out your fire pit, whatever, your what is it, like a luau barbecue? Get anything out that you want. We'll call it what you want. Grill it up. Grill it up. 94 here in South Alabama. Wow. That is Danbridge, Tennessee. What's going on? How are you? Good to see you. 99 here today. I mean, that's just terrible. That sucks. Really. I feel really bad for you. It's just like, do air conditioning where I live, there aren't very many air conditioning companies. I mean, there's heating companies, but where I live, you know, air conditioning isn't really a thriving business, so it doesn't really go on here much. Josh and the Mod, we have been doing some late night marathoning of some depositions that are fascinating. We continue those again tonight. They're super late, so if you can't make it, totally understandable. if you can. Well, see, that's not a bad temperature right there. Not at all. Not at all. Keep Otis cool. Yeah, he's like a little ball of just energy heat. You can't survive. Well, somebody did at some point, I'm guessing, but definitely the temperatures have risen. Now, let's go see here. Some interesting and unusual developments in the Gabby Petito civil case. If you recall earlier in the year that the parents of Gabby Petito filed a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit against Roberta and Christopher Laundrie, and that was claiming some pretty explosive allegations in that lawsuit. It had been rewritten, and it's really, through the lawyers. They speak through the lawyers and things like that, and it is very, it's very hit and miss. It's very legally confusing at times, but don't worry. I'm here. I'm putting on my paralegal hat. I'm going to try and walk everybody through this. And once we get through the technicalities of it, I'll tell you how I really feel, which is always fun. So in this lawsuit filed against Roberta and Chrissy, through the lawyers, it says, while Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt were desperately searching for information concerning their daughter, Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie, were keeping the whereabouts of Brian Laundrie a secret, and it is believed they were making arrangements for him to leave the country. In an effort to avoid any contact with Nicole Schmidt on or about September 10th, 2021, Roberta Laundrie blocked Nicole Schmidt on her cellular phone such that neither phone calls nor texts could be delivered, and she blocked her on Facebook. Now, that's kind of the meat and potatoes of the allegations. It is strange, but let's take a look here. So when you're talking about a civil lawsuit of this kind, and I don't know how many, this is a rather strange civil case because the case itself is full of strange facts, weird, pieces of information that we don't really know about and that they don't really talk about that much. So there is a duty in a civil lawsuit, and it is looked at as though you have to have an actual reason. Now, here the duty is when the law recognizes a relationship between the defendant and the plaintiff, requiring the defendant to act in a certain manner, often with a standard of care towards the plaintiff. But the Laundrie's rebuttal to this is that they don't have any obligation to volunteer any information at all. None. Zero. They say you can shove it, basically. We're not telling you anything. We don't owe you anything. We are doing what we need to do, and that's it. Don't worry about us. We're protecting ourselves under the law. Now, that can be taken, a million different ways, and morally and legally, there's going to be a separation here. And the Laundries do have the right to listen to their lawyer and remain silent under the Fifth Amendment, but that does only cover criminal proceedings, not civil. So they can be sued in a civil trial and still lose. I mean, it is possible that this happens. Okay. It is extremely possible that this happens. But under criminal proceedings, they absolutely have the right to listen to their lawyer, and they don't have to talk. We all have that presented to us. Okay. It's one of our constitutional rights. And it protects them here. Now they have filed, the Laundries, Christopher and Roberta, have filed a motion to dismiss the civil case. And initially, when this lawsuit was filed back in March, the judge in the case told them to rewrite the lawsuit. So they rewrote the lawsuit to beef it up, to kind of make it, more what you would call, just put a little bit more meat on the bones. And they can allege things. If it goes to a trial, they certainly will have to prove it. I mean, they will absolutely have to prove it in a court of law. But that is if it gets to that point. So initially, when the lawsuit was filed back in March, the judge in the case told them to rewrite the lawsuit. So even though it may have been dismissed for procedural issues, it wasn't dismissed for substantive issues. And if it was dismissed for the substantive issues, it would then be thrown out. The entire case would be thrown out. That's kind of all the marbles right there. You're done with it. But he can say, we need more here to consider going forward. I'm going to give you guys a chance to rewrite this. And they have, and they are, and it is going forward so far. Now, in my personal opinion, I think that this lawsuit is going to get thrown out. I just do. I just think that the law is going to protect them. It's going to be, unless they have overwhelming proof. But I don't even know if it'll get there. It may not even get there, folks. That's the thing that you got to really understand, is that there are steps to this. But I also have a feeling that the reason that they're doing this may have there may be another reasoning behind this. And if they can go forward with the lawsuit, and the judge allows it, and then it goes to a jury trial, they're totally cool with that. They're ready. And even if they lose, there may be a reason for this. Now, like I said, I think that the civil case is on shaky ground just from a legal standpoint, but it is possible that the parents of Gabby Petito are trying to pry every last piece of information out of the Laundries, and that they know that the lawsuit could be dead on arrival. But further discovery could give them more answers. This could be a tactic to try to get them to speak. That could be what they're trying to get. There are so many unknowns in this case. There are so many unknowns in this case. What do they have to lose? What do they have to lose? Nothing. The thing can be thrown out, 2 months from now, but they can still try to get as much information as they can. And God bless them. You really got to feel sorry for these parents. I mean, their lives the life of their daughter was stripped away from them. And at every corner, when people that they knew and thought that loved them and loved their family, Every turn, they were met with a blockade. Constantly, nonstop. And they want to know why. They want to know why. And they trust me, I feel that they have every reason to know why. But obviously, Roberta and Christopher do not feel that way. They don't feel that way. And what a trial that would be. Even civil, and they're suing for $100 million, $100,000, which is substantially less than 100 million, Dr. Evil style. I went through the roof there. I went 100. Luckily, I didn't say 100 billion. I went 100 million, and then I'm going, you went way too far, buddy. And I did. 100,000 is what I meant. Now, that being said, Roberta, is that her name? I don't know what her name is. I don't care what her name is. Is it Roberta? What does that mean? Let me look. Am I wrong there? Yeah, I don't know. Probably. Who cares? Nope, it's Roberta. Dude, you freaked me out, man. You can't do that to me. $1 billion. Yeah, I know. It was like, I just, shot out of a cannon. There it is. 1 million. Where are we at?
$1 million.
And that's the thing too. I didn't even say 1 million. I said 100 million, which is even worse. So, yeah, I know her name. I get it. You messed me up. Kim Maple. That's all right though. You're welcome here. I mess myself up all the time. Okay, so the two major allegations in this lawsuit, and they are big allegations, huge allegations, that Brian had admitted to his parents that he killed Gabby. That is one of the allegations in the lawsuit. Okay. The second is that with that knowledge, Brian's parents, Roberta and Christopher, both were trying to help him flee the country, which is a crime if they knew that he had confessed to them murder. It's accessory after the fact. It's illegal. So if they have proof of that, then they need to bring it forward. And they're trying to. But they say that they can prove all these allegations in court. Now they must have something. They must have something to base that on. All right. They must. Morally, you would think that they would have wanted to do the right thing, but there's something else too. Did they do the right thing by their son, helping him go off into the bush and kill himself? Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't think so. But yeah, I really hope it goes to trial too. Let's see. So next. And today, in a motion that was filed to dismiss a further response to the civil lawsuit, the Laundries argue silence is what most people would and should do in response to the Petito lawsuit. And that was updated by WFLA JB Bueno, whatever, updated March 19th. 2022. So basically, they're doubling down on what they did. They're saying that their lawyer said that that's what they should do. And if, in case your parent or your son or daughter ever kills somebody that they supposedly love, excuse me, that they supposedly love, that you should just keep quiet about it. You just keep quiet about it and not say anything. Okay. If you ever find yourself in the situation that your child commits murder, and it does happen, and I wish it on nobody, but it does happen, that this is the way that you should act. Wow. Huh. Now, here's the thing. It is their right. It is their constitutional right. However, you got to think about it from this way. Gabby lived with these people for a year. I believe her and Brian had planned on getting married. And I don't know about you, but I've never lived with somebody for a year that I didn't care about. That would be very tough. You'd almost look at, if my son's girlfriend lived with us, I would look at her the same way I looked at my son. She's in my custody and care. And she's a child of mine as well. But that's not what they did. That's not what they did. They could have just as easily said, you need to tell them where she is. This needs to end today. But they never did. They never had. Matter of fact, it seems as though they helped him elude, although he wasn't a quote unquote suspect, even though he was. Then what happens there is he just slipped under the radar. It seems like they helped him take off to go and kill himself. Why? I don't know. It's not what I would do. I would not do that. I can say to you unequivocally, without hesitation or reservation, that that is not what I would do. What I would do, and I understand that everything in hindsight is 2020, and maybe that they would do something different if they could go back, and but it doesn't seem as though they're even saying that. They're showing no weakness to their plan. But if I said, where is your girlfriend, son? And he said to me that she's dead, I killed her, I would say, you need to turn yourself in, get a lawyer and turn yourself in. Okay. Now, the fact of the matter is, if my child admitted to murdering somebody, that's the right thing to do. That's the right thing to do. Do you legally have to? No. Can you support your child even though he did something that is unforgivable? Yes. But if he wasn't willing to tell them where she was, what happened, if he's not willing to do that, then he can get the hell out of my house. You're on your own, Chief. You made your bed, now lie in it. But I'm not going to help you disappear off and take the cowardly way out. And that's what he did. He's an outdoorsman. He could not, Mommy, Daddy, I just can't imagine having to live inside for the rest of my life. You know, like I'll sit on death row for 20 years and they'll execute me. I want to go out on my own terms. Well, get out. Get out. They valued Brian's life way more than they valued Gabby's, because that's their blood. And it is just such a shame that now that they're telling other people that, hey, guys, if you were in this position, you'd do the same thing, or you at least should, because if you don't, you're a dummy. But it's starting to become more clear to me now why Brian was the way that he was. With parents like that, you sure raised a champion. He wasn't even a little kid anymore. He was a full-grown baby who was living off of his girlfriend he was a bum. Let's just call it what it is. He bummed off her. He was in her van that she worked her butt off for and paid for, and took her van after he killed her. All this, you know, blah, 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 blah. I mean, this is really, he's just a full grown baby. And his parents, you know, his parents have zero respect. That's really what this comes down to, is respect and compassion. Throw the law out the window. What is the right thing to do? Okay. If your child steals from a store and you know that they stole from that store, when you get home, you say, where did you get that? And they said, at the store. You bought that? No. Well, what'd you do? I stole it. Do you say to them, okay, well, just don't do that next time. And that's it. You know, let's just brush this one under the rug. Sure, you can do that. What kind of precedent does that set for your child, though? Not a good one. Obviously not a good one. And so when you set that when you tell your child that you are okay with them committing a crime, little or big, it sets a precedent. I'm guessing that they had always been this way. I don't know that for a fact. And I know that this is an extreme circumstance. But don't you think that it would be a great lesson in life to drag your kid back to that store and say, tell them what you did and face the consequences right now? Or let's just cover it up. Because when you cover it up, they'll do it again. They'll do it again. And I'm, like I said, with these responses and things like that, I'm starting to realize why Brian wanted to have zero accountability for what he did. This man was willing to go kill himself in a swamp to where he didn't even have to be in police custody one day. He was more than willing to kill himself, to do it, to get away with everything. I mean, that doesn't seem right. Morally, that's wrong. Now, he wasn't charged with a crime at the time, which is beyond me as well. I mean, that's just another part of the fumbled case here. Not putting somebody on his tail. I'd rather have my child in prison serving his punishment than be deceased. Yeah. Yeah. Also, the fact would be that, hey, don't you think that he should pay for what he did if he really admitted it to his parents? And I don't know if he did or not, but it would be really, really hard to imagine a scenario where they didn't know what had happened. I mean, most everybody kind of thought that when he went strolling back in that van from Teton National Park alone, that everybody kind of assumed the worst, that they feared the worst. So how would that makes no sense why he would do that, right? So he shows up, and then instead of saying, "Where's Gabby?" they formulate a plan. According to this lawsuit, I know they went camping. How sweet. While Gabby's missing and her parents are sick to death, wanting answers, they go camping, which is odd. But I have another word for it. Evil, stupid, sickening, lack of empathy, lack of care, lack of love. Their Brian was their Brian. And that is what mattered to them. Obviously, what happened to Gabby was second. And it is kind of offensive when you read what they said today in the response to the lawsuit. The Laundries argue silence is what most people would and should do in a new response to Petito's lawsuit. Is that what you would do, folks? Is that what you would do? I'm not saying it's not your right under the Constitution. There's a lot of things that you can do that you shouldn't. You're allowed to do them, but you shouldn't. And while they owe those parents every little piece of the story. They owe it all. And how they don't feel that after the fact, they'll hide behind legality. It seems as though that's what they've always done. And Mr. Baldo knew that mommy and daddy would take care of him, that they would help him out of this jam. And in that situation, the way to help him out of the jam was to let him wander off into a swamp with a gun and a satchel and probably a stupid dream catcher, and, you know, his poem book and a journal where he writes about his feelings every day. Everybody's against me. I'm bald at 24. I got a girlfriend that was out of my league, and she's probably going to leave me at some point because I'm a loser. And I eat kale morning, noon, and night. And I drink spring water out of a filter straw. Did I paint that in not such good terms? I thought I did well there. It's just it blows my mind. I wonder if his mommy packed him a sandwich too. No plastic bottles. None. He is Brian Laundrie. You know, they say to never speak ill of the dead. Well, I disagree. I think every insult thrown at that guy's way is more than fair. One of the most cowardly moves that you'll ever see in recent history. This man lost his temper so badly that he wrapped his hands around a young lady's neck that was much smaller than him. Trigger warning. And according to the medical examiner, choked the life out of her. Snatched the life right out of her body. Right out of her body. And they helped him be quiet. Just, hey, buddy, we'll get you a lawyer. Don't say a word. Don't say a word. Don't say a word, son. You're a precious little baby. Roberta and Christopher, if you ever hear these words, and I'm sure that you don't because you're so focused on yourself, this is not what most people would or should do. I say the exact opposite. It is not what, just because you can do it legally doesn't make it the right thing to do. It's not the right thing to do. It's just not. And it doesn't take a super moralistic human to figure that out. And their little baby Baldy Brian, who threw such tempers that he, on more than one occasion, assaulted this young lady who, by all accounts, was weaker physically than him, but in every other way superior to him. And she was going to wise up one day and leave him. And it sounded like that was what was starting to take place. And he knew that he was on borrowed time with her. And before she could get out of his clutches, he choked the life out of her, drove the van back to his mom and dad's house, a van he didn't own, while this young lady sat on the edge of a water bank. On the edge of a water bank, dead. On the edge of a water bank, dead. And he took her van and drove it all the way back home. You all know the story. But in this lawsuit now, it is alleged that he told his parents and that they actively tried to get him out of the country. And if they can prove that, it is illegal. It is illegal, folks. You can't do that. You can't do that. It is called accessory after the fact, and it is a punishable crime. So, even if that is found out in civil and it's proven in civil court, then you have a criminal complaint. Then you have a criminal case, possibly. And so it is now a decision that the judge is going to have to make in the middle. They say about July is when he will make the decision whether or not this goes forward. I expect it to not go forward, but I hope it does. But they have to be able to prove that their intentions caused them emotional distress, that their intentions were deliberate to cause them that distress. And if a judge sees sufficient evidence enough, then it will go forward. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be very difficult, which makes it all that much worse because the way that they have gone about it is very arrogant. It's very, very arrogant. And Gabby wasn't worth standing up for. But by the way, in every sense of well, maybe that's not the right way to phrase it, but by all accounts, Gabby was a much better member of society who seemed to contribute to society. And Brian was a deadbeat that lived with his parents, and he drew things. Not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but when you don't have a job and you draw, like if you're over the age of like 21 and you're not in school and you don't have a job and you draw weird pictures of Brad Pitt in Fight Club, that's weird to me. Like, what are you doing? Get a job. Oh, no, I'll tag along with my girlfriend, use her credit card all the way back. Even though she's dead, I'm going to use her money to, there's a lot of things about it that don't make any sense. And he really is. He's an absolute scumbag. Absolute scumbag loser. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, who does? And where's that? I don't know. What is it? Do we know that that's true? I mean, have we read it? I mean, there are some things that they've released. Brian had his own money. He just did not want to use it. Well, yeah, of course. It's always better to use somebody else's money if you can, right? They say, oh, I'll pay for dinner. No, I'll pay for it. All right, cool. But that's a much different scenario. I mean, using somebody's money that you killed makes it even sicker. It's even more ill than just stealing it from a live person. It's still bad, but the fact that he killed her, left her on the bank of the water bank, ditch bank, or whatever you want to call it, that makes everything even worse. He had social issues and was maladjusted, a misfit, abnormal, a real loser. Pearl White, when you put it that way, and I don't disagree with anything that you say there, but when you put it that way, it's almost like nobody else has social issues and is maladjusted and a misfit and abnormal. I mean, or a real loser. I know a lot of people with social issues that are abnormal and losers that don't do these things. You forgot to add psychotic, angry, rage-filled, woman-abusing loser. I'll clean it up for you. And I don't disagree with what you said. You're right. You are right. But you left a couple words out there, and I got your back. There's a million other things that we could add to the end of that. Mama's boy, narcissist, liar, murderer. What else do you want to? Doesn't equate to a psychopath, a sociopath. No. Pearl, I agree with everything that you just said. I'm not downing you, and I appreciate your comment. Thank you. You got me rolling though. See what I'm saying? You got me rolling, and thank you for that. So that way I could finish it with an emphatic. You alley-ooped it to me. It was like a spike, set, spike, bam. Teamwork makes the dream work. Brian is a loser, killer, woman abusing, bum. There you go. I don't know how else. I can't put it any more plainly than that. Much. What? I mean, that was good too. Oh, a murderer who apparently had both his parents' blessing. He was a murderer. Absolutely. Pariahs. Okay, there we go. I'm loving that. Poster boy for Arrested Development. Yep. He's all those things and more. And more. And I'm telling you, without knowing too much more about him, he knew damn well that he had outkicked his coverage with Gabby, and that Gabby was destined for good things, and he was destined to live with his parents, drawing or tracing or whatever the hell he was doing. Whatever he was doing. I don't know what he was doing. What was he doing? I mean, he's doing nothing. Eating granola and going on walks, pointing out alligators, and then saying, they're not alligators, they're crocodiles. You've never been to Florida before? Or what? I don't know if they're crocodiles or alligators, but anyway. I think they're gators. Whatever ate him, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that they made quick work of him. And Lori says, I believe the Laundries are horrible people for how they handled their monster son and let him get away with what he did to this beautiful young lady and her family. I mean, it would just be so interesting to, and I'm sure it's out there, but I can't imagine that this was, I know that he had more incidents with Gabby, but I can't imagine that this is the first kind of, how would you put this, incident involving authority that was going to come down on him that his parents didn't play interference for. I can guarantee you that they did. He was saving the earth, thought he was, I don't know what he was doing. Wasn't doing anything good. He's the typical 24-year-old living in his parents' basement without a job, dude. I don't remember how old he was. I think 24, but it's the stereotype. Yeah. And yeah, it really makes you wonder what else they swept under the rug for him. I mean, like I said, it's probably something that they had just been putting up with their whole life. Imagine that kid. And I don't know. I think that he had an older sister or something. He needed somebody who slapped him around when he was a little kid. I've noticed that a lot of like kids that have grown up that didn't have like an older sister that was like, 3 or 4 years older than him, that would whoop on him, teach him how, you stole the change out of my room, I'm going to kick your ass. And then that happens, for some reason that seems to help. I don't know why, it just seems to. I don't know why it does. It just does. They need to be held accountable. And Cassie should have whooped his ass even more. She deserved it. Let me see here. Did I miss? Hold on. I hate that so much. All right. Wet My Planties says, must be nice to say goodbye to your child over some s'mores. Gabby's poor parents had the opportunity taken by the laundries, literally sickening people. And thank you for being a supporter for 3 months of this channel. Makes it is awesome of you to support the channel the way that you do. Thank you so much for that. And a great comment. And they got to go out on their terms. It would be almost impossible to think that they didn't know that this young man was going off to take his own life. It would really, really be odd to think that they didn't know that. And also, even if he didn't tell them what he had done, and I would think that he did, because he probably went home crying about it. She made me so mad, and like I just snapped. I could hear the conversation right now. She really frustrated me, and she was telling me to get out of her van, and that when we got back we were gonna break up. She made me so mad. She made me so mad. I just couldn't help myself anymore. I started shaking and having a panic attack, and then I just started seeing red, and then I didn't know what happened. And then by then she was dead, and I didn't know what to do. Whatever. Loser. I know how that conversation went. It's just like the ambulance. She didn't want to be with me anymore. Kat said, I don't feel like they knew that he was going to shoot himself. I wish we could see everything he wrote in that journal. Well, maybe you will if this goes to trial. 80s Sweet Thing says, I feel sorry for Brian's sister and her kids and husband. They were messed over really bad by their parents. They were the ones that the parents should have protected. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have a good explanation for that. I don't know what they knew, when they knew, or whatever, but I do, it wasn't their decision to not talk. And the fact that Roberta blocked messages from Gabby's mother so that they couldn't be delivered, or she couldn't call or anything while her child was missing, tells me that she knew. How could she not know? She knew. She knew what happened. Why would she do that? And you know what? Somebody not quite as stable as these people may end up taking more action than just blocking when they get blocked, just going, I can't get through. Some people might crawl through your window, show up at your front door, kick it in. It would be hard to blame them. I know they'd get in trouble for it, and I don't advocate for that kind of thing, but I'd have a hard time. I would have the hardest time not wanting to go over there and kick that door in and say, come on, this is a joke. This is a joke. Yes, he did, but he didn't kick the door in, but I'm sure he wanted to. And I'm obviously very glad that they didn't do anything quite like that, but it was headed that way. A lot of people would have done it. I'm sure he had to have some restraint. It just doesn't make any good sense to why you would just have to put up with that. Lori says, I think they knew right after they killed Gabby and they started to get him out of there. I wouldn't be surprised if he was still out there somewhere, but who knows? Pathetic parents. Nah, he's dead. He's dead. Thank God. And you know what? The world's a better place without him. We don't need more Brian Laundries in the world. Good riddance. Boo-hoo. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. It's just one of the more cowardly. But once again, you can see it from the parents' perspective that the way that they treated him was completely indicative of the way that he acted in life. He thought that he was he was a baby Napoleon, baby Thor running around, bald baby Thor running around, flexing his power on people, yelling at restaurant patrons and employees and, whatever he thought that he should do. He could do at any time because that's who he was. He was a big baby who had mommy and daddy issues. They were probably just happy to get him out of the house. And he's like, hey, I'm going to go on a cross-country road trip with my girlfriend. We're like, oh, thank God, we're tired of buying you like kale and granola and tofu and almond milk and Propecia. And we're tired of driving you to the doctor because your cranium is oversized. And did I miss anything? We're tired. We're tired of getting you crystals to rub on your armpits that you call deodorant. And it's time for you to fly the coop, my friend. And they were probably just like happy to get him out of there. Like, well, he's not up in his room all day, fighting with his girlfriend, drawing weirdo pictures. We're happy about that. I could just see him going around with a little, have you ever seen one of those little coin sacks, like the little leather ones? He probably wore one around his neck and kept his, like, I don't know, favorite backgammon rocks in there or something. And, what if Brian told his parents that she ran off with some guy and did him wrong? My son's girlfriend did that, and her parents trying to enlist my help. I cut them off, but she wasn't dead. Did they steal a van and drive it all the way back across the country? Did that happen? Just curious. Just curious. If what ifs were fifths, we'd all be drunk, right? Ifs were fifths, we'd all be drunk. You did what 2 days ago? Wow, I did it 2 days ago. That's out of context for me, I think. Yeah, a rock sack. A rock sack. The police body cam video still haunt me. She was protecting Brian. Not a word to the police or her parents. She was in a cycle of abuse, gaslighting, and abuser manipulation. Yes, correct. Absolutely correct. And if you missed the beginning of the show, this is what was said in part for the lawsuit that was filed. While Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt were desperately searching, this is from the lawyers of Joseph and Nicole, were desperately searching for information concerning their daughter, Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie, were keeping the whereabouts of Brian Laundrie secret, and it is believed they were making arrangements for him to leave the country. That was filed by the parents of Gabby. In an effort to avoid any contact with Nicole Schmidt, or on or about September 10th, 2010, Roberta Laundrie blocked Nicole Schmidt on her cellular phone, such that neither phone calls nor texts could be delivered. And she blocked her on Facebook too. What a sweet, sweet lady she is. And the law recognizes the relationship between the defendant and the plaintiff, requiring the defendant to act in a certain manner, often with a standard of care towards the plaintiff. They did not act with care, in my opinion. I mean, that falls under the duty of a civil complaint. But the rebuttal again was that the Laundries have no legal obligation to volunteer any information. Criminally, that is true. And they did have the right to listen to their lawyer and remain silent under the Fifth Amendment, but that only covers them for criminal proceedings, not civil. They can be sued in a civil trial and still lose. Where else are you going to get this information, folks? I mean, I guess you could watch the news, but we mix in a bit of bald jokes and little baby nuts. He had a baby ball sack nuts. Sorry for the folks. Sorry. I get wound up about this guy. And initially, when this lawsuit was filed back in March, the judge in the case told them to rewrite the lawsuit. So he's like, well, you might have something here. But can you beef it up for us? Please? Let's see. So even though it may have been dismissed for procedural issues, it wasn't dismissed for substantive issues. And if it was dismissed for substantive issues, the whole case would then be thrown out. But the judge did absolutely give them more time to beef it up. And Simple Life Days became a YouTube member. Thank you so much for that. That's awesome. Toe baldhead, yeah. I like as soon as I come in, I know I will like the show. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's so nice of you to say. And once again, the two major complaints or allegations in this lawsuit, civil lawsuit, is that Brian had admitted to his parents that he killed Gabby. And the parents say, or the legal team of the parents say, that they have proof. And that the parents, Roberta and Christopher, were trying to help him flee the country. That's the claim. And if that is the truth, well, then they should be prosecuted. No questions asked. But today, the most shocking of all defenses, the Laundries want you to know, folks, and the court, the Laundries want you to know that this is what most people would and should do. And if you don't do it, you should. That is what they want you to believe. And I argue the exact opposite again. Your children are your children, but when they make mistakes as adults, they are responsible for those. They are no longer your responsibility. You can't go to jail. You can't serve a jail sentence for them. You can't. You might want to. I was talking to somebody the other day about laying your life down. You know, most people would lay their life down for their children. 99% of people in this world would absolutely lay their life down for their children and follow through with it. Most. Not all, but most. But that's not what this is. This is much, much different than that. This is an avoidance of responsibility. This is a lack of morals. This is we don't care what happened to her. We only care about what happens to our son, the artist, Mr. Brian himself. That's what that was, and that's what this is. Most people would lay their lives down for their children. And some people, a large group of us for our siblings. But the percentages go down and down and down and down. So you say, yeah, I would definitely lay my life down for my child. Okay. That's not what this is. It's different. And that's what they're trying to make it seem like, that they did some sort of holy thing, some sort of, honorable, we love our kids so much type bull crap. It's just not, it's fake. It's all fake. It's all fake. And they're doing the same thing now, trying to not take any kind of responsibility for what their part in this was. They're trying their hardest to make sure that there is no responsibility at all whatsoever. And if this lawsuit gets dropped, they have succeeded. They have absolutely succeeded and used the law in their favor, which is their right. But just because it's their right doesn't make it the right thing to do. Now, I know that may sound contradictory, but it's not. They didn't care what happened as long as they could take care of their baby. The Laundries argue silence is what most people would and should do. I don't think so. I have trouble even thinking that that's possible, because it's not. It's just wrong. It's wrong. They don't want to be accountable. They didn't want Brian to be accountable, and they're trying their best to just make it all go away. Parenting adults is so hard, but still our responsibility to do so and to do the right thing, not plan escape or avoid consequences. They should have kicked him out if he wasn't going to talk to them. And if he did tell them, he said, get a lawyer and turn yourself in. Where's Gabby? She needs to go be recovered. What did you do, son? What did you do? And if he would tell you, this is what I did, you say, well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to drive you down to the police station. As hard as this is, I'm going to drive you down to the police station. And you just need to confess. Now, I know that goes against what a lot of people think. But I mean, he's obviously guilty. Well, at the time, he wasn't charged with anything, so he very well could have gotten on. He very well could have gotten on a plane and left, because there were no charges filed against him. But if they knew that he had committed the crime, even though there were no charges filed against him, he still is in trouble. Because you can't tell somebody that you killed somebody and then expect that person to help you flee. You can't harbor fugitives. You can't be an accessory after the fact. You just can't. So if that is provable, and I hope that it is. Breastfed Brian was stuck to reverse teat. Sick. Yeah, the credit card fraud. I mean, I don't know. Hey, Josh, you said Wambulance. I'll hear that for days. You're my favorite. Still laughing. I have to wait for Will Robinson. Yeah. Will Robinson. Do I still have that? I don't know.
Danger, Will Robinson. Yeah, danger. Yeah. No, Will Robinson. Danger.
There it was. There it was. Brian was a legend in his own mind. And I mean, and he had quite the good sized dome. So I'm sure he thought of himself very, very highly. Their morals are lower than a snake's belly. You know, that's where the serpent in the Bible comes from. They talk about the reason, like, apparently snakes used to have feet like a lizard sort of. And since the devil took form of a snake, God removed their feet to make them the lowest crawling creature on earth. That they were equivalent to the lowest crawling creature. And that's where snakes really get their, you know, beautiful descriptions from. And so, yeah, I mean, oh, thank you so much. Very nice of you. But let's see here. They need to lose their home, rental home businesses, all cash assets, and their freedom. Look, you wouldn't get an argument from me Josh the Lab, we've all decided Brian looked like a dirty Q-tip. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah, you could say that he looked like an enormous pile of crap, and I wouldn't get upset about it. The Dirty Laundries thought they were above the law and still think that, politician style. Agreed. That's exactly what they thought. It's exactly what they thought. Yeah, they're all kind of the similar piles. They're all going bald too. Like does that have something to do with it? I know a lot of good bald men in this world. So I won't equate that, but going bald at 24 would suck. I'd have my own issues with that probably, but luckily I don't. I have a full head of hair, thank God. I would hate that. Which is probably where a lot of his anger came from. He really should have looked into getting like a wig or something. Gabby was still going to leave him no matter what. That was never going to change. It sounded by all accounts, it sounded like she was on her way out the door anyway. Maybe when she got back, it would have been a different story. But unfortunately, the young lady never made it back, and the story ended about as horrifically as possible. It is just, ooh, we got Hollywood in the house. What's up, Hollywood? What's up? We had the going bald. Yeah. It's just kind of a weird thing, like holding on to something that's just going away. I never quite understood that. I guess if you're defined by your hair, then losing your hair would suck. But I mean, yeah, it's just the point of the hair thing, and I could care less who is bald, but he's just a goofy little dude, man. That's all it was, and he was going to lose his girlfriend. They say that the frontal, I think it's the frontal cortex in your brain doesn't stop developing until you're about 25. And by the time you're about 25, 26, you start thinking, about the future and what you're going to do with your life. And it seems like Gabby was kind of getting to that point, and Baldo wasn't. I remember I don't know if any of you remember, but we did the thing called Where's Baldo, where we made him put a Waldo suit on him with glasses. But yeah, Where's Baldo? It's vanity. I like bald-headed men. Yeah, I do too. Yoga, lettuce, licking tree hugger. Dude, there's nothing wrong with being with nature. Nothing wrong with that, but I think Gabby was getting ready to break it off with Brian, and he didn't let it happen. I sure wish the police officers would have noticed the abuse when they got pulled over. It was pretty rough for sure. Yeah. Gabby was trying to leave him, and that made him turn irate. Isn't that the story always? That somebody was going to leave somebody, and that's just not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. Their fragile egos can't take it. Larry Miliete, Barry Morphew, Dale Warner, Alejandro Diaz, my dad, same thing. Brian Laundrie, same thing. Couldn't handle losing what they perceived as their property. And that's why it is So important to know that if you are in an abusive relationship, either way, verbally, and verbal turns to physical, you can get help and you should leave immediately, because they're not going to change and it's not going to get better. It doesn't get better. It only gets worse. Sometimes it gets better for a short amount of time, and then when it starts up again, it gets worse. If you continually forgive that person, and I know that people are scared to do that, you got to reach out to family, friends, insulate yourself, because that's the way that you can get through it. That's right. With a plan and people to help. Have a bag packed. Tell people what you're doing. Tell them what you're doing. Yeah, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. It doesn't matter. Agreed. It happens on every side. You can do that too. But just know that it doesn't get better. Yes, yeah, correct. That is correct. Sometimes I think emotional abuse is hard because a slap stops stinging, but those words and feelings crush you. Yeah, and then couple them together. Couple them together. Yeah. Very sad. Guys, thank you for being here. Show tonight, 10 o'clock, kind of a laid back casual show. And thank you guys for being here. I really enjoyed this show. And the interaction. Thank you, guys.
This boy has
It's not, really? It is to me.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I have to put her on the side and worry about
I'm gonna
the
do
boys.
what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
there is no investigation. This boy has
It's not, really? It is to me. Right. Idiot.
I done my best. It's hard, you know. It's real tough.
But I have to put her on the side and worry about the boys.
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
Live from the NBD Production Studios, you're in the lab with your host, Joshua Diaz.
there is no investigation. This boy has
It's not, really? It is to me.
But I have to put her on the side and worry about the boys. But I have to.
there is no investigation.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I have to put her. But I have to put her on the side and worry about the boys.